Hello and welcome, guys. We are here for match 4 with the list that you see on screen. We are currently 2-1, a pretty good lead so far. Hopefully we can keep it up. We managed to win the last round despite not really being in control at all, and that's always a wonderful feeling to know when to abandon your main game plan and just go for the kill. And that's a very important skill to have access to. And hopefully we will not need to use it in this upcoming match. Hopefully we can maintain a firm grip on our opponent and their plan and stop it from occurring. But regardless, I will see you guys in the match. While we're waiting for an opponent here, I do want to remind you that if you are not familiar with the deck list that I showed just a second ago and you want to know more about the card choices, then go ahead and check out match 1 where you can find all those details, as I will not be going over that here. That's for the match 1 breakdown, and that's where you ought to go if you want to see that content. So, alright, and it looks like we have a match. See what we get paired against. We'll definitely play first, finally. Been long enough. And we have a hand that has 3 removal spells, 3 lands, and the Teferi. But to be honest, I'm kind of a sucker for hands like this, so I'm going to keep it. Especially when we're playing against a Luris of the Dreamed In deck. Our opponent does have that one as a companion here, so definitely got to keep that one in mind. And yeah, I mean, I guess we're just leading on Polluted Delta, so we can get a tapped Watery Grave. We can Fatal Push on turn 1 if we have to, by Fetch Shocking. We can also just play Swamp and hold up double Fatal Push this upcoming turn anyway, so I don't think it's going to be a problem if we just let our opponent play something on turn 1. We need to save an answer in reserve for this Luris, and we might need to play around discard spells and save 2 answers for the Luris too. I don't know, maybe that's a little too forward thinking. We'll just have to see what happens here. Thought Seeds, okay. So if our opponent doesn't have very many threats and doesn't really have a way to push through all of our removal spells, they'll probably take the Teferi here in the hopes that we'll never be able to get ahead on card advantage and just have to 1-for-1 until they eventually just do us enough damage to kill us. It seems like that is not their plan. And I'm a little curious why they took Path to Exile here. Maybe, I don't know, I can't think of a world where Fatal Push is worse than Path to Exile, so that's just really odd to me, but that's okay. Like, I suppose they're thinking that we are going to need... Oh, that was supposed to be a Watery Grave. Oh well, they didn't play a threat turn 1, so just playing Swamp to hold up Fatal Push should be fine here. But yeah, what I was going to say is perhaps they were thinking that we would need Revolt to kill Luris here, and that makes Fatal Push a little weaker, but I don't know. I definitely would have expected them to take a push instead. It's kind of unfortunate that we got this Hallowed Fountain here, but we'll try to figure it out. If we do draw a Supreme Verdict, then actually getting this fountain will be helpful to us, so maybe it's okay. That just also means that we basically just have to play the Swamp this upcoming turn here. Not really anything we can do about it if we want to hold that Fatal Push. I don't want to Fetch Shock Watery Grave off this Flooded Strand just to cast Fatal Push when we can just play Swamp. It's going to delay our Mystic Sanctuaries by a turn, and it's also going to prevent us from casting Archmage's Charm on turn 3 if we were to draw, say, Archmage's Charm plus land. Our opponent chooses not to fetch their, or activate their Mishra's Bauble until our upkeep, so I guess they're playing around a discard spell. Like, okay. Play land, pass it back. Familiar stuff. Let's not always deal to this. I suppose there's a timeline where we have our opponent at 2 cards in hand with the Bauble trigger on the stack, and we want to Esper Charm them before they have additional options to discard or something like that, so... We see Jund. Okay, there's a Death Shadow. Okay. Currently a 1-1. We got a Bauble. Okay. I mean, yeah. If they do have a discard spell, then they can play Luris. Well, they'd have to play their discard spell before they play Luris, so we have at least 2 turns before we get punished by Fatal Pushing this, so I'm just going to go ahead and get this Death Shadow out of here. Remand would be alright, since we probably need to have something to interact with this Luris. Archmage's Charm is kind of... that one's kind of unfortunate. Let's play out the island here, since we're going to be saving this Flooded Strand to Revolt Fatal Push anyways. We want to delay fetching this Flooded Strand as much as possible. I'm willing to fetch Shock in order to cast this Archmage's Charm here. In fact, we can steal a Death Shadow at some point in time with Archmage's Charm, which is definitely something interesting to consider. Like, we could take a hit from a shadow and then play a shadow ourselves. Speaking of a shadow. Our opponent doesn't have anything else to clear the way for the Lurrus, so I'm pretty inclined to just go ahead and push this shadow so we can Archmage's Charm the Lurrus, which they don't have in their hand yet anyway, so maybe that's a little hasty, but let's just go ahead and get this one out of here, I think. Keep the board clear. Use our mana while we have our mana up. Apostle's Blessing, that's fine. We can just steal the Death Shadow here with our Archmage's Charm, so it's no big deal. Cryptic Command is also very good here, and we are a turn away from casting this Teferi, which will be very damaging to our opponent. I dare say. Now, the question is, are we just going to, like, Cryptic bounce the Shadow, or take a hit and then steal it with Archmage's Charm, or, I don't know. Let's let our opponent attack here and see if they commit a Temur Battle Rage. I think I'm pretty inclined to let this happen, and then Fetch Shock and Archmage's Charm to steal the Shadow. So, I mean, our opponent could have another Apostle's Blessing, but I'm not really... Oh, well. I mean, they get a Lurrus in their hand. I'm not really inclined to play around a second Apostle's Blessing, so let's just Fetch Shock and get our own little Shadow thing going here. And now I do think we want to get the Hallowed Fountain. Yeah. Of course, we want to Shock here. And yeah, let's be the Shadow deck. This is almost the same thing as drawing 2 cards, because it deals with our opponent's Shadow and gives us a threat, so... Lightning Bolt. Okay. They bolted their Shadow. Oh, this is going to kill the Shadow. Okay, so we got them to discard a Lightning Bolt in addition to everything else. That's great. Land. Ugh, not a land. Kind of unfortunate. Would have liked to be able to slam Teferi here, but we're going to be able to Cryptic Command this Lurrus, so things are looking good. And they do have the Lurrus in their hand now. Alright, just go ahead and play the Lurrus so we can counter draw it. And don't have a discard spell. There we go. Counter target spell, draw a card. That one. Alright. Swift Spear does not bother me in the slightest. Alright, we need an untapped land to slam this Teferi here. Untapped land. Let's go. Untapped land. Ooh, Logic Knot. Okay, well, we'll sit here and wait on all of our counterspells while our opponent has a threat in play. Luckily, Swift Spear is not a particularly good threat when we're at 9 life, so... Inquisition of Kozilek. Do we remand this anyways? I feel like we want to get these effects out of our hand. Yeah, let's remand it. And then we may or may not Logic Knot it, depending on if we draw something good. I mean, they're going to take the Logic Knot anyways, and they won't know about the Spell Snare if they do have something like a Scourge of the Skyclave, so let's just not give them the information of what's about to happen. We'll leave the at least one Fatal Push in the yard, Cryptic, Path, and Archmage's Charm. Which of those is more important in our graveyard? I think that with our Teferi in hand, soon to resolve, it probably is fine to exile the Archmage's Charm here. I don't know, though. Maybe we exile the Path since we already have a push. Let's do that. This way we can use our Archmage's Charm to steal... Actually, we only need to do it for 4 anyways, right? Yeah, okay. So we can have everything here. It's all good. We'd still like to find an untapped land off the top here. Basic Island would basically be our best draw. Would basically be our best draw. That's right, I'm a pro-comedian now. I'm leaving Magic to go into comedy. Archmage's Charm. Well, that's a good one. Let's play our Colonnade and pass it back. Charm can steal a Shadow. Probably not worth stealing the Swift Spear here, I would think. It can also counter a threat if we need to do that. Or it can just draw us 2 cards and give us more to do this upcoming turn after we slam this Teferi straight into play. And they pass. Well, we're casting this Charm. The question is, are we stealing the Swift Spear so we have extra protection for our Teferi and protection from like a bolt or something? I think that's probably the best play. It feels like a kind of a dumb play, but I think it's just going to be more impactful to not die to a lightning bolt here, so Shark Typhoon is amazing. But you know what's better than that? Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Let's let that one resolve. We'll uptick it, of course. Land. That's fine, I guess. Pass it back. Not attacking. The point is to have this one as a blocker. Untap the Colonnade and Hallowed Fountain here. And yeah. Hopefully our opponent has a Scourge of the Skyclaves and no discard spell, and we can just Spell Snare it. That would be cool. I don't know if they know about the Spell Snare. Maybe they do. Actually, there's a way to check, isn't there? Yeah, so these are the cards we revealed. So they definitely do not know about the Spell Snare. Let's see. So we can get a Mystic Sanctuary here. I like the sound of that. We'll get this Cryptic Command back, I dare say. Okay. Yes. And we'll just go ahead and untap. They can draw their card, that's fine. And our opponent concedes. Okay. I can understand that. So against them, we're going to want Timely Reinforcements, probably. I don't know if we want all three of them, but probably that is going to be a good one. Celestial Purge is going to be good at hitting Shadows, or Liliana Planeswalkers, or Scourge of the Skyclaves. Fatal Push is obviously excellent here. Relic and Cling to Dust don't strike me as particularly relevant. Relic is better than Cling because it's better in general against Lurrus, for example, but to be honest, we don't really want Lurrus to resolve in the first place. This spell could be good against something like Kolaghan's Command, or Veil of Summer, or Temur Battle Rage. It's kind of narrow, but I don't mind it. Maybe it's too narrow, though. Gust hits Swift Spear, Renin 6, if they have it. Veil of Summer, Tarmogoyf if they have it. I don't know if they would have Tarmogoyf. I don't know. I'm not super sold on Aether Gust, but would it be better than Logic Knot? Potentially. Let's just go ahead and start signing stuff out. So Force Negation is not going to be relevant against their creature threats, and going down a card to cast Force Negation for free, most likely not going to be the move. Logic Knot is obviously bad if our opponent has already resolved a creature. We might need this in order to answer a Lurrus, though, so I'm going to keep a couple Logic Knots in. And Remand can definitely go against our opponent's mono 1-drop deck. Cryptic is good. Supreme Verdict is relatively good. Esper Charm and Archmage's Charm are great. Path to Exile is not the most fantastic, but we just need all the spot removal in the world here. Yeah, I mean, this is probably fine. We could trim one Timely to get this Relic in here, and I don't hate that. Timely's a little weak, but they do play prowess creatures like Swift Spear. And Timely could also potentially just, out of the blue, kill a Scourge of the Skyclaves, which seems pretty good to me. Now, let's just run it this way and see what happens. I have not played against the Scourge of the Skyclaves version of Shadow. Last time I played this matchup, I still brought in Timely Reinforcements, but it was just against Death Shadow. Maybe I'll get the pleasure of just slaughtering an innocent Scourge of the Skyclaves out of nowhere with Timely. That would be pretty cool. And this hand is obviously a mulligan. No early interaction at all. This hand is obviously a keep. Plenty of early interaction. We cancel. We definitely want this Fatal Push in our hand. I'm kind of inclined to get rid of the Cryptic here. I think Archmage's Charm is going to be more important, and it's also more mana efficient, so we can draw more Cryptic commands. We do play 4 of that card, and we're going to be able to shuffle it back in anyways, so see what our opponent does here. Turn 1 Swift Spear would be mildly annoying. Yep, so this is going to make their Scourge of the Skyclaves alive, so to speak. I mean, we're probably going to fetch or shock and make that happen ourselves anyways, but okay. And the question is, are we shocking this Watery Grave in or not? I think we do. It's pretty likely that our opponent has a Scourge here, and if they don't, then we can just get the Swift Spear out of play, so it's probably worth a 2 life. 3 life, since we're probably going to take 1, at least from the Swift Spear attacking here, so our opponent going into combat without even playing a land drop is kind of interesting to me. I don't know if it makes any particular difference whether they play the land first or not, but alright, play a Scourge, so we can Fatal Push it and get rewarded. There we go. Boom. Out of here, Scourge. Nobody likes you. Never did like you. Alright, Tap Watery Grave is pretty enticing to me, so let's go for that. Pass it back. Yep, 2 life to be able to push a Scourge immediately without them being able to protect it with an Apostle's Blessing or something, and that kind of thing. Definitely feels like a good trade to me. No discard spells from our opponent so far. That's interesting. Nile Spellbomb. That's totally fine. Probably should have yielded to these Swift Spear triggers, but that's okay. I think I'm down to take 2 damage as well, if that's what they're doing. We could potentially steal a Shadow down the line, and actually taking the damage will make that better. There's a Shadow. Now the question is, do we push this? I think that we do, because if they have a Apostle's Blessing, then they have to use it now. And then if they do Apostle's Blessing, we can Fetch Shock and steal it with the Archmage's Charm. I'm trying to think if there's any way we get punished by Luris. I suppose our opponent could have a discard spell, and this upcoming turn they just get Luris into their hand. The turn after they cast discard spell to force us to do something with our Archmage's Charm. Actually, no, if we Fatal Push and then Archmage's Charm, if they do have Apostle's Blessing, then we actually just don't have an answer to the Luris at all. That's kind of a problem. I think we do still have to just go ahead and go for the push here, though, and hope our opponent doesn't have Blessing. There we go. Better to just push the Shadow and keep our Archmage's Charm for potential shenanigans. That one's kind of interesting, because we want to be able to cast that, but we also want to be able to cast Charm. I'm inclined to play out the island. Nah, let's play out the Strand. We can Fetch Shock and Charm to draw 2 cards and then untap Supreme Verdict using the planes that we have. If our opponent commits another threat or 2 here, depending on what they have. They only have 3 cards left, so. And if they cast a discard spell, well, there's another threat. If they cast a discard spell to take our Verdict, that's kind of unfortunate, but then we can just fetch for a basic island or something, and Archmage's Charm then, so it's like, whatever. We'll take our 2 damage. We're all at 12 here. Scourge of Skyclaves. Well, this is perfect for our Supreme Verdict. Like, this is just the best possible timeline. Our opponent is just playing into everything that we have. Like, this is amazing. We could still die here to, just like our opponent bolting us out, but we're gonna draw 2 cards ourselves, target us. Timely Reinforcements. That one's not quite killing Scourge of the Skyclave just yet, but, of course, we're going to do the sensible thing here, and Supreme Verdict. Not trying to get value out of this Timely Reinforcements, when we don't need to. At the very least, this Timely will get us back out of bolt range. Our opponent can't just top deck, like, bolt, and get us. Here comes Luris. There we go. Luris in their hand. They're planning on casting this upcoming turn. If we can fade a discard spell, draw step, then we'll be able to counter Luris, and that'll basically just be the game. Remand or Logic Knot would be good here. We sided out Remand. Path to Exile is perfectly fine. Our opponent has Nile Spellbomb, so they can stop us from using Mystic Sanctuary here. I think I still want to play out the Flooded Strand anyways, so that there's a cost to them just sacrificing the Spellbomb and using it to draw a card here. Basically, we prevented them from doing that at this instep by playing the Strand, so casting it back, huh? So they're waiting for a discard spell to cast their Luris. Well, let's draw 2 cards for sure. Actually, hold on. Let's rethink this. Maybe we get a Mystic Sanctuary and force them to pop their Nile Spellbomb, so that then our next Archmage's Charm that we're about to cast from hand will go to the graveyard so we can snap it back. I think that's probably a better line. Yeah, and we have a removal spell and a Timely in hand already, so I'm not super worried about a creature threat from our opponent. So let's force the action on the Spellbomb here. And if they just let this go, then we're obviously more than happy with that. Yep, there goes the Spellbomb. Let's just yield to these things. Alright, now we can Charm, and this one will actually go to our graveyard, so that's nice. Alright, the land's not really the plan here, but okay. Another path is actually fine. I don't think we are firing off a Timely just to gain 6 life. It's not the worst, but it's probably not necessary. Let's play this field. The plan here is to field one of their lands so we can get another land out of our deck and make our top decks just a tiny fraction of a bit more live. It's a very inconsequential amount that that is affected by the percentages of drawing a land here, because it's 1 card and 42 total cards. That's really extremely unimpactful, but in like 1 in 100 games, it'll matter. Luris is fine. We don't have a counterspell for it, but that's okay. Here comes a shadow, I'm pretty sure. We'll path this Luris in response. Get out of here. We'll timely reinforcements, and then perhaps path the shadow. We'll have to see how everything happens that way. Let's go ahead and get this field ruin out of the way, hitting their only green source, so they're forced to search for a green land like a forest here if they want to hold up something like Veil of Summer. We'll get an island, of course. Alright. Okay, they have Stomping Ground. That's interesting. And they shocked it. I guess they were going to shock it anyways to make sure their shadow was a significant threat. Alright, so this is the best possible window to cast timely reinforcements, so we're clearly doing that this turn. Our opponent has 3 cards in hand, so Charm not really looking to be the move here. Let's cast this timely, get it out of here. Suppose our opponent could dismember their own shadow, and then it would counter the timely reinforcements life gain at the very least. We'll play the Strand, I guess, so we can fetch Shock and have Path and Esper Charm available. That makes sense to me. I don't think we're going to need both, but we'll see. So we know our opponent does not have a Luris available to them anymore. We'll just take a chump block here. Chump block a couple turns before we decide what we're doing with the shadow. I mean, we could just path it and have a 3-turn clock on our opponent. What do we think about that? I mean, that doesn't stop us from just going ahead and declaring the block, but, I mean, if we path now, I guess we can't cast Charm. I'd rather cast Charm this turn and be able to not take as much damage from our Flooded Strand, if at all possible. Tarmogoyf, okay. Maybe we need to Charm here to see if we're going to draw the Spell Snare. I think that makes the most sense. It's a little unfortunate if we draw something that we don't want our opponent to see with a discard spell, but I think they would have cast a discard spell before they committed this Tarmogoyf anyway, so let's just draw. Another timely reinforcements, you say? Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and fire off this fetch. Do we need to go ahead and pass something? I feel like it wouldn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to wait 1 turn on it, though, I don't think, so. Purge. That one is fantastic. Right now we're getting absolutely nothing from our timely reinforcements on either life or on board state. We could attack with both soldiers, let them block one, and then cast another timely, and then go for a path or purge. I don't really think that's necessary, though. Let's play out this Polluted Delta, again, trying to thin our deck just a little bit. We probably want to hold on to it, actually, though, now I'm thinking about it for Jason the Mind Sculptor purposes, being able to brainstorm and, you know, be able to deal with a couple cards we don't want by shuffling them back into our deck with the Delta, so also for Revolt on Fatal Push, in case our opponent has, like, something that costs more than 1 or 2 mana, which is probably unlikely, but still. It's a consideration. Alright. I think we might as well throw off a chump blocker here. Block the shadow, I guess. The question is, do we want to path this Tarmogoyf yet or not? I think we're definitely purging the shadow here. The shadow is going to be the most difficult threat to handle, so see if our opponent wants to commit a battle rage or something here. Oh, they're dismembering the other soldier. Okay, well, we're definitely purging the shadow. So let's get that one out of the way. And now we'll have a timely reinforcements kind of ready to go here, at least for getting some more tokens into play. Yeah, I mean, we're letting this go. The question is, do we just go ahead and path the Goyf? That'll put us on them on a turn 2 clock, I mean. Since we path this and have 1 attacker to put them to 3, and then... No, I guess we were not going to be getting tokens from the timely anymore. So... Now let's just go... Man, this other timely is looking really bad after the first one resolved. I'm still not convinced that our opponent can't have a more threatening card than Tarmogoyf here. They could play a Scourge or a Shadow that we need to path more prevalently than the Goyf itself. So I think we just need to play it safe here. And I think that the benefits of fetching here are so minuscule, and the upside of potentially drawing a Jace to reward this fetch is probably better. I don't know, though, because we have exactly 1 Jace to draw, so there's another Tarmogoyf. Okay, well, now we can cast this Timely again. As if we couldn't before, but we'll probably do it just for the 3 tokens. Let's just untap. Something good. Off the top, let's go. If our opponent will let us draw. They have a Kolaghan's Command here to get something back, like a Scourge, and then make us discard. We'll pitch the island, of course. A Cryptic would be pretty decent here as well, as we could just take a hit from these Goyfs, maybe even Trump Block once, attack for 2 with our remaining 2 tokens, or another path is fine as well. Alright, let's hold on to the island to play around Kolaghan's Command. We'll play this Timely Reinforcements. We can then path both of these Goyfs, and if our opponent has no remaining threats, then we just have a 2-turn clock on them easily, so even if they have something like a push. Timely is providing us a bit of a clock here, which is nice. Let's let them attack, I do believe. See what they do. They attack with both Goyfs. Okay. I think we can afford to path 1 and take 5 from the other. That's what I'm going to do. That's just my general feeling on it. And then we'll have lethal this upcoming turn, even through their blocker of the Tarmogoyf, so they'd have to have a removal spell and the Goyf to block. Yeah. I mean, they could also just play a Monastery Swift Spear or other sort of threat here, in which case I guess we just throw off the path. Okay, they pass it back. Fine with me. Jace, come on. We need you. Let's go, Jace. Or the 4th Path to Exile. You know what? I am not going to complain about that one. Put our opponent to 1 here, or 2 if they have a push. I suppose they could also have a Dismember and like just hard cast it, so. Our opponent won't be able to cast a Thoughtseize or anything like that after this attack, so that's kind of nice. And we've got 2 paths, so there's no way that they're putting us into bolt range this turn. I think this is pretty much the game. Swift Spear, okay. Let's path this Goyf straight off. Our opponent has good games. Good games. Well, that was a pretty convincing match against Jund Shadow, Scourge of the Skyclaves. So they drew all lands. That is a shame. But regardless, we are now 3-1 with the list that you see on screen. I am very excited about that. Maybe we can elevate this into a 4-1. That would be fantastic. Obviously, this list feels very solid to me. I'm still not sold about some of the things on the list, and I'll save some of that discussion for match 5 here. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Let me know what you thought of the match and what you think of the deck in general. What changes might you make? And would you have made any plays differently here? Let me know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. As always, yeah, I'm just going to cut the video here. This is Redface Menace, signing off.